All right, welcome to SIG Windows. It's April 20th, and this is our weekly SIG Windows meeting, this CNCF meeting. And so we follow the CNCF Code of Conduct, which essentially means be nice to each other. And if you have any questions or concerns, just reach out to one of the leads, myself or Jay. Mark is out this week, so I'll be running the meeting, and we can go ahead and get started. I see one or two new folks. We usually do intros to let people say hi and introduce themselves if they let us know why you're here and what you're interested in SIG Windows for. Does anybody want to introduce themselves? Nope. Okay. Cool. I don't think we have any announcements this week. Does anybody have anything they wanted to announce?
Well, Friedrich's recipe is usable now. That's my announcement. Friedrich, it's my announcement on behalf of Friedrich. So, but we'll dig into it after this.
Okay, cool. Do you have a link maybe, Friedrich? And drop in the chat. We'll drop it in here. Just for anybody that's not aware, Friedrich's been working on getting a local development environment going so that we can run the end-to-end tests and do development against a local cluster that doesn't require the cloud or anything. Make it easier for new members to join. Yeah, if you drop a link in, I'll link it in here. So on the agenda, I had the PSP. So there's a PSP cap out there. I'll open it up here. And they've mentioned that they don't want to break Windows. And one of the things they wanted to identify was the standard identifier for Windows pods. This kind of comes up pretty regularly since the pod spec doesn't have like a concept of an OS. And it's been brought up a couple times that maybe we should think about that for maybe V2 pod spec. But currently, there's kind of two different options that are being evaluated. One is using the node selectors with Windows OS, or using a runtime class. I guess there's kind of trade-offs for both of those. And we've gone through, and there's a big discussion here. I just wanted to call this out and see if anybody from the community had any major opinions or thoughts on either direction. I think the challenge with the node selectors is there's no enforcement at the kubelet level. You can essentially override these and end up bypassing the PSP replacements. For runtime classes, it requires a little extra work to kind of set these things up, and there's no standardization on those things. But go ahead and read through this, and please, if you have an opinion, now's the time to make it known so that we can get this resolved for the PSP as it gets implemented. Does anybody have any questions or?
Are you working on who from us is like deep in that stuff? Is it you or Mark, or is it just floating around? Or
yeah, so Mark has been working on adding some support to Gatekeeper, some policies there, and then this KEP came up, and so he jumped in and gave some information on it, and I'm just trying to keep it moving forward before it gets closed out from the Windows side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if there's no other comments, then we'll just go back to the agenda if I can get there. The Zoom thing is in my way here. There we go. Okay. Looks like Jeremy, you tagged something here this morning. Did you want to go ahead?
Sure. We have no problem detector already staffed and it's being worked on. So right now it builds, it tests. It's not like functional where you could actually use it, but it's fairly close to that. And basically for this, it'd be nice to get like other people on it if anybody's interested in looking on it. But it is moving forward, and there is a bug or a GitHub issue that I can reference where you could see all of the pull requests against it.
Awesome.
When you say it's being worked on from a Windows perspective, you mean, or just in general?
It has Windows support now at a limited level. It's not completely done yet, so you can't like really. You could install it; it just wouldn't work. But like there is a Windows binary being produced and everything at this point.
Gotcha. Cool.
Cool. Excited to see that come through. So if anybody's looking for some contributions, there's opportunity here. I see a bunch of new people join. Does anybody want to introduce themselves? I think we're essentially at the end of the agenda here, unless anybody wants to bring anything else up.
I have just one question regarding last week's meeting. Who was the person that had some issues with the symlinks, with the disk partitions? I kind of forgot who it was.
I think that was Jing.
Okay, yeah.
See her on the call today.
I'll leave a message on Slack then, but I don't think that's an issue, the thing that she encountered. I think that's a normal behavior, actually. That would be expected because of a lot of security reasons. I've left some comments on the Google Doc she opened there, and it's in the last week's agenda. But I'll also ping her on Slack.
Okay. Sounds good. I guess I'll also just mention I've been working on the IPv6 dual stack. I think it got tested by some folks at OpenShift. There's one open issue on, we say we support 2004 Windows Server, and the when you query the HNS, it looks like HCS shim kind of says that it's not supported. So we're just working through that, and then that PR should be ready. But anybody wants to go take a look at it, please take a look and give a review. That's this one here.
I think there are some dual stack tests on E2ETS as well. Should we look in enabling them afterwards?
Yeah, actually somebody is working on that from the networking side. So. There's an open issue for that.
Is there a special, so with dual stack, how does Windows work? Like, I mean, like, is it, do you need a specific version of Windows to run dual stack, or?
Yeah, so it's supported from 2004 on. So the SAC release 2004, and then you have to, in kubeproxy, there's a flag that you need to turn on.
Okay.
Well, actually, in 121, it became on by default, and that's why we found this.
Yeah, that's our issue.
Overlay, issue.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, this actually brings up another question that I actually wanted to bring up, which was, as you remember, actually last week, James, I hit this issue with Image Builder where I was trying to run it on a like evaluation ISO, and then I kind of got to thinking, like, what, like, should we all, like, when we tell people how to run this thing now with Friedrich stuff and everything, like, should we Should we have like a MSDN version that we develop against, or should we all be using an evaluation version, or should we? Like, what do you think we should do as far as development goes? Like, you know, I mean, it would be nice if more people could test Image Builder, for example, and use it. And I don't even know how the MSDN accounts work. I've never even dove into that rat's nest of stuff. Like, do I have to like, can I just get one with my email, or, you know, if we could
Yeah.
have instructions for people on how to do that, like what would those instructions be? What would the right instructions be? Right? Like, I'm not sure what questions to ask here. So you tell me, what should I be asking? It just seems like a mystery.
Hey, Muzz, it looks like you're on the call. Do you have any information on this in particular? So in Azure, we're able to, all VMs that you deploy in Azure come with a license. I think that's probably the same in like GCE and in AWS when you deploy a VM. For local development, yeah, I think using the internal one. And then there used to be a way to get an MSDN if you were like a developer. Microsoft had like a free MSDN. I haven't looked into that in a while. Otherwise,
Okay.
the development versions.
Which license are we talking about? Windows license or?
Yeah, for Windows Server, for testing, doing like local development for folks who don't have access to the cloud.
Yeah, no, let me ask the person who handles the Windows licensing and get back. Does that work? I can update on the next call. I don't have an immediate answer. I don't think for dev we have, I mean, for Windows Server, we probably don't have licenses. We have for Windows 10, but I can ask them what's the, how could they work, or what should they do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily concerned about getting a license or not getting a license. I'm more concerned about what do we tell people who want to work on this project, right? Like,
Absolutely.
I don't care whether we get a free, if we tell them, look, you got to pay $150 to work on this. I don't care. Like, as long as we can tell them something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so
it would be super cool if it was a program like what Red Hat offers. They're just an easy example where they have the developer license where you can register for a developer account and then you get a free RHEL license to use just for development purposes. It would be cool to see a program from Microsoft like that, to where it's easier to pull down the ISO and run a legit copy. Right.
Yeah, no, that's a very good suggestion. I'll definitely bring that. So let me ask what the situation is, what the stance of Microsoft is on local development. And if the answer is you need to buy the license, then I will definitely try my best to get some kind of at least licenses for CNCF folks, or some kind of program.
Yeah, that's great. Just so we can have instructions. And like I said, I don't even care if the answer is you have to buy a license. If we had to buy a license, what does it cost to buy a single server license? Is that ridiculous? I don't know. If it's like $100, I don't even, for a year, I don't think it's
That's optimistic.
I mean,
add a zero to start.
Yeah. So if it's at that, then it's a non-starter for anybody wanting to contribute to the project, right? So then it's super important, right? I figured maybe you could get a single license for free or something, but if you can't do that, then yeah.
No, thanks for bringing it up, Jay. This is, I mean, for our team and for Microsoft, and like, this is very important. We want to make sure that developers have the capability to do this, especially for Kubernetes community. So let me get back on that. I don't want to speak, because these are licensing issues and there's a lot of legal stuff in there. So I'll get back with a concrete answer.
Awesome. Cool. Awesome. Cool. And if you hear something before next week, let me know, because I would love to be able to, by the end of the week, have docs that say do this if we find out soon. So thanks, Muzz.
Awesome.
I guess I'll just say for now, what we do is we use the eval, which seems to kind of work okay for some use cases, but not for Image Builder. Yeah, go on.
Okay, cool. Does anybody else have anything else they want to bring to the meeting today?
If there's nothing else, I have one other developer experience question.
Sure, let's do it.
This is a good one. So has anyone ever, like when you install Windows Server, as you know, it kind of comes with all these restrictions on how you can use IE. So it takes you like, for me, it takes me like 20 minutes to like set up a web browser that I can like hack on and develop and pull stuff down on. Is there a like automated kind of way to like disable Internet Explorer? Like, what's the most efficient way for Windows if you're to configure a Windows Server to 2019 or 2020 instance for like insecure usage where you can use the web browser and all that stuff without having to manually configure it? Is there a word for that?
I don't actually do that very often. I
Okay.
usually, if I need to like do development on the machine, what I use is Visual Studio Code remote.
Mhm,
And so then it automatically, as long as you have an SSH setup,
mhm.
it will SSH to the node, install Visual Studio Code, and then I can do like I can edit the scripts on the fly and test them and things. So that's how I typically like do that type of development. And that way I have
Yeah.
my local web browser. I do have a gist for the setup for Visual Studio Code's SSH. If somebody's interested in that, I can share.
So, yeah, some stuff, I think it's definitely, it's worth sharing. But some stuff you just can't do over SSH, I think, on a new box. I forgot what commands they are, but there's some administrative. And of course, then there's the issue of that you still have to set up SSH to be able to do that, right? So, well, if you have any ideas on how we could like maybe make like a simple, I bet I could look on the internet and find a PowerShell script that disables all the
Yeah.
security or something. So I don't know. I'll see if I can find one.
Yeah, I think almost all that is set through the registry or can be configured through the registry. So
Yeah.
it should be pretty easy to just get a PowerShell script that just sets everything to not be enabled and then fire that off.
Mhm. Okay, I'll poke around and see.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else has any other ideas on how they do this. Okay, great. Is there any last minute items to the agenda?
I just joined and I don't know if it was mentioned, but there's a project board for kubeproxy cleanup items. And then there's also, I'm still working on the roadmap doc. It's just mainly been getting to it, but I will finish that up. It's the doc for the kubeproxy discussion. I'll post it in the chat so you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, I have an update on that. Thanks, Lori, for reminding me. So keep going. I don't know if you were still saying something, but I have an interesting update on that.
Oh, I was just going to say that when we last spoke, we talked about putting the contents. There's 4 subtopics for that effort. And we were going to put the 4 subtopics as like roadmap B documents inside GitHub issues to make them public and then just plan off of those. So that was it for me.
Okay. So one interesting thing that I talked to Mikhail this weekend, and I don't know if he can make it today, but we were looking at, I see Jocelyn's here, he might be interested in this. He was looking at HNS, and he was and the way that we do the v2 HNS inside of kubeproxy, and he was telling me that he actually was real optimistic about porting it to Kaping. Like it might just be something we could do like without actually worrying too much about it, because it turns out that Ricardo has built an IPVS prototype of Kaping, which is the next generation kubeproxy that separates the like the API server sort of kube specific stuff from the processes that actually do the data plane. Anyways, so well, he was looking at Kaping. He's the guy who wrote Kaping, and which is under Kubernetes SIG/KPNG, and he was telling me that actually the data model for HNS is actually very similar to the data model for IPVS. So he was like, "Oh wow, this might just be really easy." So we may be able to just have a kubeproxy implementation on Kaping up and running, like kind of in real time once we decide to just do it. And I was going to say if he actually was here today, maybe we would do it during the, like, you know, after this. But anyways, it's just some possibly good news. Just for numbers, you know, it's like Ricardo's prototype IPVS implementation of kubeproxy was like 200, 300 lines of code or something like that. It like wasn't a lot, right?
I guess I have another update. Oh, go ahead if it's on topic, because
sorry, yeah, I just wanted to mention to Jay. So I'm not very familiar with Kaping, but that's definitely something that I would love the kubeproxy experts in my team to pitch in. I don't know if we have David in the chat today. But yeah, basically the HNS team might be able to give some advice on how to do things in Microsoft.
Yeah, I mean, if they were interested in this, Jocelyn, if there's any motivation at all on your end, I mean, I think we could literally schedule a call where we just literally built it together in like an hour, like built a prototype. I don't even think it would be a big deal. So if you're interested, just maybe reach out after this and we can talk, yeah, unless the folks are on.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I was just going to announce one other thing. At the release cadence cap is in its approval stage. We're seeing approvals now. So this was the conversation about releasing Kubernetes 3 times a year instead of 4 times a year. So yeah, it looks like it's going to be approved imminently.
3 times instead of 4. Okay.
Yeah, and I think we're just waiting for one person from SIG testing to comment on the issue, and then there it is.
Awesome, thanks for the update. All right. Any other items for today's agenda? We've been kind of ad hoc adding them, which is good. Going once, going twice. All right, well, so that's the end of SIG Windows meeting. I think we're gonna transition over, and we typically spend the next half an hour, 45 minutes kind of doing hands-on. Jay leads it, and I think last week we looked at this the local development with Friedrich's work. I think we might, I don't know what we've got planned today, but I'll hand it over to Jay. And so if anybody wants to stick around for the hands-on experience part, otherwise you can take off and we'll see you next week. See y'all.
Okay, now this is the part where I spend like 25 minutes trying to figure out my leader code so I can post.
I can just make you a lead here. Let's see. I think.
Okay.
I'm gonna stop the recording for the main meeting.